Welcome, everybody, to the Society of Scribes General Meeting. I'm Barry Morentz, a member of the Board of Governors of the Society and longtime member. And it's really my great thrill and honor to introduce Viktor Kams, one of the fastest rising international calligraphic luminaries on the planet.
Whoa.
I first met Viktor, as did several others, only in 2019 at the conference sponsored by the Montreal Calligraphers. And he was a great success. We heard great things about his workshop, and then we gradually became introduced to his phenomenal range of work, which includes very innovative, traditional and avant-garde calligraphy, fabulous brush lettering, extremely precise embossing. He works digitally as well, and he designs tattoos. So he really runs the gamut of creative lettering. Before we get into Viktor's presentation, I just have a few announcements that are of great interest to everybody, I think. First of all, this wonderful compendium of envelopes to Alice is available through the Society. Whoops. They are envelopes written both by Alice and to Alice from our fans.
That's fantastic.
And it provides, can you all see okay?
Yeah.
An extraordinary range of designs. So if you're ever stuck for coming up with an unusual or just different type of envelope, it's all in this book. Great little book to have. I'm not sure of the price, but it's not very much. And besides, anything by and with Alice is more than worth its weight in gold. So contact the Society, go to the website. We also would like to announce the forthcoming workshop by Michael Ward. He is from Vancouver, Canada. He does amazing pointed pen lettering. He's also a dancer. And I think, although I'm not entirely sure, a choreographer as well.
Yes, he is.
Ah, okay. And his lettering certainly reflects that. So he's doing a 4-part workshop beginning in mid-June, I believe, on the art of movement. So whether or not you're a pointed pen person or simply broad edge or brush, I'm sure you'll find his workshop of tremendous value. We'd also like to announce, although I know many of you are already aware of the Society's ongoing lecture series on the history of the writing masters by the wonderful Belgian scholar and calligrapher Sibyl van Zylen. I think that's how it's pronounced. And that's on Sundays. You can also access the previous lectures, which began way back in January. So if you missed any of them, you can easily catch up. And last but not least, I'd like to inform you, or some of you might be aware of it, that this September will mark 50 years that the Society of Scribes has been in existence.
Oh my God.
And we are planning a great celebration. It's only in the very embryonic stage at this point, so we don't know what form it's going to take. But if you have any ideas or memories or photographs of workshops or society-sponsored events, please do feel free to contact us, and we'll see how we can use it. But we are planning something quite wonderful, as befits half a century of our existence. So on that note, I'd now like to introduce Viktor Kams. As I think I mentioned, I met him in 2019, and his work is just absolutely phenomenal. And I was really thrilled to ask him and for him to accept our invitation to take us on a scribe's journey. So Viktor first stumbled into calligraphy on a vacation in Istanbul in 27. We were talking just before how popular broad edge calligraphy is in Turkey. And it's its own style. It combines traditional Western forms with a good deal of Oriental design.
Yeah.
So the cumulative effect is one that's immediately recognizable. And Victor was very much taken by it and started practicing on his own. And not terribly long thereafter came the Great Awakening, in which he said, I think it's missing something. So he searched out a couple of somewhat well-known people in the field, like John Stevens, Yves Leterme, Carl Rohrs, and Victor took off. And now Victor is well on his own as one of the leading lights in the calligraphic firmament. And on that light, I will now turn it over to Victor. Enjoy. By the way, you can post any questions in the chat and we will field them after his presentation. Okay? So, Viktor Kams.
Okay, thank you very much, Barry. I don't know if I'm gonna live up to such an introduction that you made, but yo, I'm seeing Lynette saying, no, I will not. I'm gonna do my best, but I don't think I was ever introduced that good. So it's kind of scary. No, before we start, I really want to thank you, Barry, and Fan, and everybody else from the team that made possible that I'm here speaking for you today. It's such a huge honor for me to be doing this presentation for this incredible guild, like it is the Society of Scribes. Before we start, we were talking about it. I'm gonna turn 42 next week, so this guild is older than me, and some of you were writing before I was born, so it's quite a big responsibility for me to be doing this presentation. But I hope you enjoy it. Like Barry said, I'm going to start a little bit from the beginning. I don't want to take too much time with this introduction because I have a lot of stuff and visuals to show you. My relationship with letters started very early in my life. I was drawing letters, like I recall, like I started, maybe I was 9 or 10. In the school, I would draw letters all the time. I live in a town that is called Torrejón, is in the outskirts of Madrid. And this town is known because we have a military base that in the 80s and early 90s, it was run by the Spanish military together with the US. So we have a community of American people living here in town, and that kind of was our introduction to a lot of the stuff of the American culture in general, but in specific, it was hip hop that it was like kind of introduced to us throughout the base by the people that was working and living there. So within hip hop, there is graffiti, and graffiti was, let's say that my town, it was very one of the starters. So in Spain within graffiti. So when I was a kid, like 8, 9 years old, I would walk to school and I will always see all the graffiti in the walls, and I was so struck by it, and I will try to replicate and copy the shapes in the school. And that was my first introduction to drawing letters. From then on, I just went on to start painting, and from the longer part of the 90s, I was painting graffiti like basically every day. So that was kind of my introduction, which might be really foreign to many of you because it's something that is pretty far away from calligraphy, but it was a start for me. And I always say that if it wasn't for graffiti, I would have never started calligraphy. So I have to be thankful that I started that at that point. I'm gonna show you when we start the presentation, just a few, 2 or 3 pictures of what I used to do back then in the 90s, so you can have an idea. Then, like Barry said, I moved to the UK in 2000. I was 20. Actually, I turned 20 in England already. And then I went there initially to learn English for a year, but I ended up staying there for 6 years, and I went on to study graphic design there in college in a school that was called Sussex Town College, which is in the south of England. in a town named Istanbul, and then after that I moved to Brighton, which is not far from there, place where Iwan Clayton is. After that, around 2006, I came back to Madrid and I kept studying design. I studied motion graphics and 3D design, which was, I thought it was the path that I wanted to follow. But short after, I realized that I wasn't having much fun with motion graphics and all the time that I spent in the computer. In 2007, I traveled, like Barry said, to Turkey with a friend of mine. We were there for a holiday for a week. And then it was a month of Ramadan and it was finishing. So at the end of the month, there is a lot of festivities in Istanbul, and there is a lot of markets, and they are selling arts and food and a lot of stuff. And it's fantastic. And it was very nice because people were so welcoming. You know, when they are finishing the Ramadan, everybody's so happy because it's such a hard thing to go through the whole month. So even though that we were foreigners, we felt very welcome, and people will just give us things to try. And there I saw for the first time calligraphers. They were writing on papers and also plates and ceramics. And I was like blown out, but I was like, oh my God, what is this? They will work with nibs and also markers. I'm sure most of you, if not all, have seen this kind of Turkish calligraphy. Like we were talking with Barry and I before, that they have like a strong foundation of Western calligraphy, like italic shapes, but it blends with a lot of kind of Arabic ornamental stuff, and it's like very visual and very striking. And when you see the Turkish calligraphers working like that, they are so fluent, and it's really appealing. So when I saw that, I said, oh my God, I felt so familiar for me because I kind of have the fluency and the energy of graffiti, and I could relate to that. So I thought to myself, oh, okay, this can be something that I can pursue. I think I need to learn this. And that was kind of my starting point. So when I came back to Spain, I started looking into calligraphy, and then the first things that I found was the work of Niels Suulman, which is a Dutch calligrapher, graphic designer, also a graffiti writer. And he was doing this thing that he called it calligraphy. So it was a kind of blend of calligraphy with graffiti. And so that even felt more familiar for me because you have the graffiti part of it. So I started looking into it, but I thought, okay, this is nice, but I was more intrigued by the part of calligraphy, which was more unknown to me. So I kept digging. I thought I want to look further into traditional calligraphy or more like plain calligraphy. Then I discovered the work of Dennis Brown. I always speak about this. And that was probably my starting point. I saw some videos of Dennis that he was writing with a browser nib. That will be like around 2008 probably. And I was like totally shocked because he was so fluent. You know, Dennis' work, he is really fast, and when you first see it, it's very striking. So that was the confirmation for me that I thought, okay, this is the thing that I need to follow. And I started kind of trying to teach myself for a couple of years or so. But at some point I realized that I was going nowhere, like I needed to be taught by people. And then it's when I started to try to search for professional calligraphers to learn from. So my first class was with the calligrapher whose name is Ricardo Rousselot. He's an Argentinian that has been living here in Spain for 4 years. And I took my first class with him. It was italics. And after that, I thought, okay, this is exactly what I needed. So I'm gonna just keep finding people to learn from, and I will move on, because I felt like I was wasting a lot of time trying to learn by myself when I really needed good guidance. So my second workshop was with Claude Mediavilla, which is a very well-known French calligrapher. And yeah, I move on. After that, I've studied with some really great people like Luca Barcellona or Yves Leterme, Carl Rohrs, John Stevens, many others. So I'm very thankful for that. So I'm gonna go ahead. I don't want to bore you too much. I want to show you the presentation that I prepared. And also I have a lot of visuals and I don't want to waste the time for me talking so much. So I'm gonna walk you through as I show you the slideshow, and I will talk on the pictures as we move on. I'm gonna try to share my screen. Hopefully it works. We tested this before. You should be seeing my screen now. Is that right?
Yep, looks good.
Okay, thank you, Fan. So let's start here. This is my monogram, as some of you might recognize, especially if you were in Montreal, because every day I wore a different t-shirt with this logo on. So yeah, you probably recognize this. Let me see if I can page. All right, this is my logo. My name is Viktor Kams. My name is actually Victor Fernandez Osorio, but I chose the name Kams by myself when I was a kid, like I was 14, and that was the name I always used for graffiti, and it stuck with me all these years. So it's been almost 3 decades that I use this name. So when I started calligraphy, I thought, okay, I just will stick to my name. That's a little bit of the origin of what my Mister Kams name come from. Because in graffiti, back in the days, it used to be like a common thing to call yourself Mr. something to make it like official, also sound like you were somebody, you know. So that's the Mister Kams origin. But actually, the Kams, it was a name that I chose. It's actually a German word, half of a German word. I just picked up a German dictionary, and I found a word that had Kams in it, and I just cut the letters and stick to Kams. So that's the origin of my name. All right, this is a little calligraphy that I did the other day for a lookup for the title of this presentation, which Barry and I agreed to call the Journey of a Scribe, and I hope you gonna enjoy this. So we're gonna start with this, which is what I was talking about. This is what I used to do when I was a kid. I painted this in 97, which I was 17 years old when I did this piece. And this is the stuff that I used to do. I started drawing letters very early. I don't know if you can even recognize the letters here between all this color, but yeah, you have the K, A, an M, and an S. And I used to work with a lot of color, and nowadays I'm more of a black and white and grayscale guy. I'm not so colorful, but yeah, back in the days I used to work with a lot of color and really massive compositions. But it's been a long time since I used to do this kind of work, and I see it now. I'm kind of nostalgic. I don't think if I could draw something like this now. So yeah, this is another piece. This is from 97 also, and 98. Yeah. This is more or less what was my starting point. During the 90s, I was basically painting this kind of stuff like the whole time until I moved to England to study there. Well, I'm going to start here since I told you I was a graphic design student in college. So my first assignments when I started working with letters or when I started calligraphy were logotypes, and I was really happy to work with logos because the work itself sometimes became my practice, because I have a lot of practice by itself. But when I was designing a logo, I used to sketch a lot. Like I don't know, I will do like 50, 60 sketches for a logo design. So that process of sketching is sometimes became my practice, and it helped me kind of correct things and also test stuff. So this is a folio that I put together to show a few logos. I'm going to try to keep, and yeah, so I can see the whole screen. And most of the stuff I was doing in the beginning, it was done with the brushes or brass pens, like for example this stuff here. And but I also tried myself to work with as many tools as possible. I try to learn myself as much stuff as possible. Sometimes I will mess up working in very different things at the same time, but I took time to work with the pointed pen. Also, I'm not a great pointed pen guy, but I will do some work sometimes, like this one, acero y madera here. Is this this acero, it was drawn, I drew the letters, and the madera part, it was written with a pointed pen, and then I will go on to work on the digital vector. And this piece that you see here is done with a flat brush, which is, I will show you later. I've done quite a bit of work with flat brush and became a little bit known for this sort of work, if you can say that. And I wanted to translate it to logos also, because I felt like it was so powerful and have a lot of energy in it. So I thought if I can translate that into a logo that can be actually functional and can convey the message that is trying to have, it would be great. So I designed this as a title for a conference that it was done in 2019 in Dublin, in Ireland. And I actually ended up being invited to the conference, and I did a presentation there. And I also taught a small workshop about brass pen, which I will talk about later on. Excuse me, I'm just drinking a little bit. So some of the stuff is like black letter, which I'm also a huge fan of. So I did a bunch of logo types with black letter blend for tattoo studios, and this is for tattoo studio. This is for another one, and it's kind of aesthetics that is always demanded by people in the world of tattoo. So actually, I will go on to speak about it later. But the reason that I started tattooing myself, it was because I was doing so many designs for tattoos and for tattoo studios, and I have so many friends that were in the tattoo craft, and they were encouraging me always, "Oh, you're good with letters, you should try to start tattooing." But I was I don't know, I have quite a bit of respect for it. But sometimes when I will design a tattoo, and they afterwards the clients will send me the picture that somebody did. Maybe the tattoo artists, they didn't know about letters, and sometimes the outcome, it wasn't so great. So it kind of make me think, okay, if I can do this myself, then I don't have to blame other people for ruining my letters. If I do it bad, then I will just blame myself. So you have a few more logos here. This is drawn letters. This is done with a brass pen. So is this, a lot of them. And this is, sorry, I go back. This is the page I was in. This piece here, it was done with a browser nib, and I tried to somehow blend a black letter with some more ornamental stuff and make it really condensed, like really narrow and tall. And they kind of captured the style that the clients were looking for. There was this brand of people that's breeding bulls, the degree of dogs. Then you have more classic stuff here, italic, blended with some pointed pen also, brass here, and yeah, most of them are brass pen. There are a few monograms that I designed also. This is based on italic. This is more black letter. That's my case. This is done with a pointed pen, which I also work a lot with. And this is done with a pointed pen. So as I said before, I chose these ones because each design is a different tool. And I also started all my designs by doing original calligraphy. And then I went on to sometimes trace it. I will show you the process a little bit later. I will sometimes trace it and then scan it and go on to digitize it in Illustrator. So this is the logo that you've seen before. This is printed on paper and some cards here. Then these ones you've seen before, you can see it here applied on a t-shirt. I did this one a while ago. I think this one was not in the folio. It was for a society in a kind of a collective in the US. I did a while ago. I started doing this, but obviously it was very visual, like I mentioned before, like the Turkish calligraphy was very striking, but obviously it's not functional as a logo. It's very fancy, but it's not gonna work as a logo. But I still like it, so I went on to add it here so you could see it. We've seen this before. As you can see, many times I use this kind of stuff to present my designs to the clients, because I've always felt that like this letterpress kind of look is very visual and very appealing, and people really like it. I love it myself. And actually, because I used to present all my logos to my clients in this format, it was what pushed me to start doing embossing myself, as I will show you later on. This is also pointed pen, like we've seen before. I designed this for a metal, I think it's a black metal band. They are actually in New York. The components are Swedish and French, but they live in New York. And they asked me for something very striking and very dramatic. And I went on to do this. I actually wrote this with a pilot parallel pen. You might not believe that because all the texture and stuff, but I just pick up very textured paper, and I wrote with a lot of energy and very rough movements. So it became all this splatter and all this kind of dramatic look. And this is actually for another band that is also, I don't know if it was black or heavy metal or some kind of metal yet. I think they were from the States also. They contacted me and I did something similar to that last logo that I just showed you, but they were looking for other look. So I say, they sent me some references and I say, okay, I'm gonna try to draw these letters because these people is looking for something different. So I actually draw these letters. You can see it in the next picture. And this is a pencil sketch. I went on to do quite a few of these sketches. I fill it up with the pencil to see the weight and the depth of it. And then I go back to it. I went on to Illustrator and very patiently, I went on to vectorize and try to keep the texture, the rough edges and all the stuff in the process, because for all of you that know what it takes to vectorize on calligraphy, you will know that keeping this sort of texture it might drive you crazy, but I cannot like it, and I went on and I tried to keep it, and they were actually very happy with the outcome, and so I was. So that's the best thing, when the customer is happy and you are also happy and enjoy the process of the design. This is also another logo that I did for a tattoo studio that is done originally with the flat brush. And the same thing, like I mentioned in the last piece, I tried to keep the texture of the brush when I do this vector process, but I do not ever use the automatic path vectorize that the Illustrator has, because that is terrible. If you ever tried that, you will know that it's not clean at all. So I actually do vectorize everything, and I do the texture by hand. Like I go carefully placing all the anchor points, and then I just try to keep the texture, but I never use the automatic option. This is the same thing applied in a t-shirt, that the capital letters, the monogram of the last design. This is the one that I mentioned before. I wanted to put this one a bit bigger so you could actually appreciate the texture of the brass here. And it actually, they printed very big in the conference, and it worked really well. Sometimes I will go on to do this and kind of make it very wild and try to keep or try to input a lot of energy in it, and even combine capital letters in the middle of the word and something like a very not usual to make it kind of a more striking, if it could be said that. This is another design that I did for a tattoo studio. I drew these letters and then I went on to vectorize it. These are a couple of monograms that I did a long time ago. Again, you see them presented in this sort of letterpress style. This is actually not a real print. This is a mock-up from that I do in Photoshop. So I could just give it this look to present it to the clients, because I think it's always a look much more attractive than to show the flat or the 2D calligraphy itself. So it always proved to be like the clients normally really like it when I present it like this. So I keep on doing this. You can see the same thing here. This is a logo that I wrote with a brass pen, and I went on to do the same thing in Photoshop. I did this not long ago, actually, probably last month or so. After all these years, you can see that I'm still using this letterpress thing. I wrote this with a pointed pen. I think it's pretty obvious, but I just said that. And then I went on to work digitally like all the others. I tried in a composition like this to kind of keep it balanced. And then when you add a lot of stuff or a lot of ornaments here, knowing that this is going to be for a logo, depending on what the logo is going to be used for, actually the clients ask me to have something really ornamented. So the more stuff that you add, the more work that you have in terms of making the piece work as a whole with the balance of the whole thing. So I try to make a lot of ornaments, but at the same time let it breathe, or make possible that everything breathes well, if that makes sense. This is more or less the process that I do. There's one thing missing here, because actually this logo, the first original part of the sketch, it was a brass pen. So you can see here this picture where I trace it already and I kind of refine it, and then I went on to do the digital work. But before this, it was written with a brass pen, obviously. So this is more or less, I'm still doing a lot of logo design nowadays, besides that I'm doing quite many different things now. But when I find the time and I get proposals, or some clients ask me for logos, I'm always happy, because I always enjoy this sort of work. I kind of just work by myself in the studio and get lost in the process, and I enjoy it very much. So let's move to something else. All right, this is some of my work that I do with the flat brush. As I said, I work a lot with this tool, and I kind of became a little bit known for it, if you can say that. And yeah, I will go on to tell the story about this, because this tool and this style of writing took me to a lot of places. So I'm very thankful that I put the time to try to make the brush work in this way, which is, if any of you or most of you have tried this tool before, obviously, you will know that it's not the easiest tool to become friends with. But I put a lot of time and effort, because I always love this sort of texture that you can achieve with the flat brush that no other tool can give you. So I will show you a few pieces in this style of calligraphy. This is something that I did as a demo in one of the workshops that I taught about flat brush. This is obviously kind of condensed italics and very gestural, if you will say that. This is actually the cover for one of my workshops that I did in this subject. This is another thing that I did a while ago. This was actually done for a workshop that we ended up doing in Mexico, which I'm going to talk about now. This is actually pointed brush, which I also work a lot with. during the years, but after I kind of be more focused with the flat brush, but I used to do a lot of pointed brush calligraphy, and I really love it also. This is a very versatile tool and really great. This is done with a pentel pocket, I think. Again, this is I did this, I think it was beginning of 2020 when we started getting into this pandemic that we've been through, or that we're still through, and it became really popular. People seem to like it. I don't know if it was for the aesthetics or more for the message, but this is one of the pieces that Carl Rohrs ended up choosing for an article that he put together about my work in, I think it was in 2021. I don't know. I kind of lost already with time, but I have the magazine here, and if I have the time, I will show it to you later. This is another piece that I did a while ago, and I always try to combine, like to play a lot with the size of the letters. Just, you know, you can get this kind of sensation that there's a lot of bouncing going on, but it's not really, it's quite aligned, but just playing with the size and the height of the letters, it will give you that sensation that there is a lot of movement in it, even if it's not, but you know, the size of it gives you that impression. Well, this is the cover that I did for the workshop that I taught in Mexico in 2019. I'm so glad that Lynette is here, because she was responsible for me being there. She organized this workshop together with my friend Jose from the city of Mexico, and I was so glad to be there. The story is a little bit strange, you know. We were not so much strange, but surprising. We were in Milan, in Italy, in 2018, and we were presenting a book that we published with the collective that I'm part of, that is called Calligraphy Masters. And we did this book together with the Moleskine brand. So we were actually doing the presentation of this book, and I was teaching a short workshop the next day in the Moleskine Cafe in Milan. So the Destiny have Lynette and Nita from Boston. They just were walking. They just passed the cafe when we were doing the presentation, and they entered the place. So they ended up signing for the class, and yeah, when we finished the class, Lynette offered me if I would be interested to go to teach in Mexico, and I say, of course, if they will have me there, I will be very happy to go. So the rest is history. We ended up going to Mexico in April 2019, like you can read here. And this is a picture of the class. Actually, you can see Lynette here in the corner. This is a couple of pictures from a short presentation that they invite me to do in the university there in Mexico, and I did a small presentation. Oh, sorry. I did a small presentation for the people that attended the event. And this is a piece that I did, a demo piece that I did in that workshop. When I teach this kind of workshop, I try to start from a very formal style of italic with the brush. But as I go on, I try to turn or to put the step in the accelerator, and I try to start teaching people how to introduce a lot of movement and a lot of gesture in the writing. Some people is try it in the beginning. Some people is more intimidated by it, and then they just like to say it. But I like to at the end of the workshop to go more like polyrhythmic, if you would say so. And this was a demo that I think I always like it. It's a word that they use in Mexico, chingon, and I always love this one, so I thought that I will add it here. This is actually the same story. I was teaching in that conference in Dublin, in Ireland, and in my class there was this lady from Poland, and she, at the end of the class, she told me, this was October in 2019, right after we came back from Montreal from the conference in in Montreal, ran the book conference, which I was very lucky to be there in. I will speak about it a bit later. So this lady told me, listen, I organize a calligraphy conference in Poznan, in the city of Poznan in West Poland in December. Would you be interested to come and teach this class there? And again, I said, of course, if they will have me, I would love to go there. So that's what we did. This is the title that I did for that workshop, which is sort of the same stuff, but I work here only with capital letters. And what I did here is just to overlap letters. I will just smash letters together, not even condense. They directly overlap each other, but I felt like as a visual, it works very good, because sometimes when you work with this sort of capitals, it's very difficult to make them look like energetic and gestural. So I kind of did this as a more striking image, striking visual, if you would. So that was a very good conference. I'm so hoping to go back there. The community, the calligraphy community in Poland is great. I made a lot of friends there. I actually went there with my friend Adam from Scriptor in Berlin. He's known as Theos One. Probably many of you know him. He's also a tattoo artist and a calligrapher. And he has the studio in Berlin that is, as I said, the Scriptor in Berlin. And also Michael Ward, which Barry talked about before. He was traveling, he was teaching also in the same conference in Poland. So we ended up traveling from Berlin, the three of us, by car to Poland to the conference, and we stayed together in an apartment for the whole event. So that was quite a great experience. And I really missed you guys. If you are listening this, I hope to see you soon. This is another piece that I did with flat brass. Sometimes I go on to kind of not going abstract, but really take it to something like more wild, or not even a line or nothing. This is actually a piece that is a Latin quote that all of you know, that is amor vincit omnia, love wins all, or something like that. If you can translate it like that, I don't know the exact translation in English. But yeah, when I work like this, I will write very freely, and I just don't use any sort of guides or nothing. I just pick the brush and I go along. Sometimes I go turning the paper around and just see what I can come up with. Yeah, I'm always very thankful to all my students that want to listen to me. I talk too much in my classes. I know I'm sometimes a bit tiring, but I did this piece as a thank you to all my students in one of these classes of flat brass. Here is another. I think I'm going to speed up a little bit because I'm taking too much time and I have too much to show you. So this is another another tool that I like to work with a lot. This is the brass pen, or the ruling pen, sorry. And this was the cover for one of the workshops that I did in my old studio, which is called the Scribe House. Now I'm in my new studio, which is still called the Scribe House, where I am right now. And I was in 2019, I started to teach regular classes in my studio for people that have been with me in class previously, and I wanted to go further, because sometimes you take a workshop, but some people want to dig deeper and want to go further, if you will say something like that, and they will take more regular classes in the subject. So this is one of the workshops that I did there in my old studio. This is a demo piece that I did in one of them. This is actually done with an ESA pen from Alain Ariel. If you know, I'm very sure you all know him. But I'm very much in love with this pen. You know, there are so many kinds of different ruling pens, or even you can create yourselves your own tools. But these pens that he makes, they are just wonderful. This is also another piece that I did with that tool on some black craft paper. Another one. This one, I also go very wild with it and try to make it not so readable. This one actually, and try to exaggerate the shapes a lot. This actually say you gotta love it if you can read that. This is a different tool. This is a pilot parallel pen that some people modifies to give it a round shape and to turn it in somehow like a automatic ruling pen, if you will call that. So it's each different ruling pen, they will give you a different sort of line, different outcomes. So that's what I enjoy. Sometimes then I go on to paint the spaces and just to add a little bit of color. This is actually after is a quote from a song from a rapper from New York, Nas, that I very much like, and I've been a fan of all my life. And I always like this song very much, so I went on to write the title because it's a powerful message. It's life is what you make it, what you make out of it, or what you try at least. This is a piece that I did, an original piece that I did with a ruling pen that I made myself, like a cola pen. For example, I don't use cola cans because the metal is very thin. I normally use the olive cans because it's a little thicker and I really, it works better for me. But this, I did this tool myself, and I just wrote with a lot of pressure and a lot of energy. So I wanted to really make it splattered, and the composition, as I said before, is this is a passepartout around, and I wanted to kind of give it the red paper like lock in, and then I go over the edge with the writing, so it will blend with the white of the frame. And I just go along writing and keep moving the paper in different directions until I fit the whole message in it. You can see a little detail here to see the texture, and this one says chaos is a friend of mine. If for those of you that know me personally, then know that I'm a bit chaotic, but I'm getting better lately. This is another piece that I did the original thing. I wrote this kind of monoline stuff, if you could call it Newland or some sort of Newland. And then I normally like to do some kind of outline with a ruling pen. So I think it's very visual. So this was these two pieces that I showed you were part of my exhibition that I did in 2020, that I call mixed tissues, and I will talk about it in a second. And then I add a little bit gold leaf here to add a little bit of light to the piece. All right, this is done with another ruling pen. I wanted to add this because, like I said before, each tool, it will give you very different results. So if you know the Swiss ruling pen, which are these ones that are longer, shape, and more pointed, and you have to handle this tool in a very different way, because the way you hold the tool is actually very parallel to the paper, if you will say it that way. And it's a different way of writing, and also obviously give you a different outcome. But I don't know, I feel like this one is very wild. It's really difficult to control, but the line that you can come up with is really dramatic and very striking. This is an original piece that I did for another friend of mine, calligrapher from Canada, Alice. Actually, I did this piece and I ended up doing two more that I will show you in a minute. This, it was done with an ESA pen also. It's done on Garza paper, which was a Spanish paper that is not in production anymore. And also I put some gesso on it, so it kind of makes it more difficult to write with the ruling pen on top of the layer of gesso. But at the end, I kind of manage, and I think I like the looks of it. It's not the usual thing that I would do. It's kind of a very messy, if you will say, but I like the look of it. Yeah, you can see it a bit better here. Another piece from my expo, from the Mixed Tissues Expo. It was done, this one, it was done with the pilot parallel pen, the one that is modified that I spoke about before. I actually designed these bookmarks for the dancing letter program that helped me and allowed me to attend the conference in Montreal. They did a sponsorship for me, and I was very much happy to do these bookmarks for them. They were giving all the people in attendance in the conference, they were giving a little set with a notebook and a few things, and these bookmarks were in there. So I also wrote this literary scripta with the ESA pen from Alan. I was for a time I normally very obsessive. You know, when I pick up a tool, maybe I might be writing with it like continuously for a period of time until I just move to something else. So when I got this this pen, which I was very lucky to get as a present from my friend Chilis, I was writing with it nonstop. And then I also combined it with some double stroke black letter, which I will also talk about later on. And I just went on to do this sort of watercolor backgrounds and just place the lettering on top of it in Photoshop. Oh, this is another thing that I did with the ESA pen, which is for a good friend of mine, Jimena, which is a very great calligrapher. I mean, the only decent photos I have of myself, she took all of them. I will never thought I could look good in a picture until she took the right ones. But so I did this as a demo in the workshop for her, and I kind of like the rhythm of it, the kind of bouncy rhythm that I mentioned before. So I decided to add it here. I just went with the negative and the positive piece. Oh, this is actually a grid card that I did for Alan himself when he was kind enough also to send me a second ESA pen that I have, which I cherish very much. And you can you have two different tips that you can interchange, and it's a lot of fun. They have a different kind of hardness in the metal tips, and it's very much fun to work with it. So I just went on and write his name and did this happy birthday greeting for him. Oh, here is the tool itself. You can see it. This is the one that Alan sent to myself, and I was this as soon as I got it, I just wrote these pieces, and the tip that this one had, it was quite bigger than the first one that I got from Chili's, and it allowed me to do how could you say, the contrast of the weight of the strokes. It could be a lot bigger. I could do much thicker strokes and thinner than to combine it than the previous tool that I had. All right, this is okay. I probably left a blank space, sorry. This one is done with the pilot parallel pen, the ruling pen tool. And this, I added this here. This is not done really with a ruling pen. This is done with a regular pilot, but just I turn the tool around and I write with it in a very slanted way. And I also put a lot of pressure in it to get this sort of texture. But I wanted this message to be really strong, because what we're going through right now is something that we should really see stop as soon as possible. So everybody deserves to live in peace, I believe. So yeah, I will not talk about that anymore. But as I said, I tried to do a piece that it will convey the message that I wanted to do. And this, I believe, is a video that I wanted to add, so you can see a bit my way of working with the ruling pen. This video shows me working with two different ruling pens, one that I made myself and one that I got from an artisan in Poland. So let me play this and shut my mouth. Okay, I hope you like that. Let me see if I can pass. All right. That I tried to use different colors there. It was done with wash, and I wanted to blend the colors in the writing as I went, and just write in capital letters and use the letters in that messy kind of composition. I'm talking about the video. And then I went on to, as I've been showing you the flat brush and the ruling pen, I went on to kind of create this thing that I call mistitious, and it was sort of a blend of both tools. So I kind of place both tools near my hand, and I go interchanging the tools, and I created this sort of way of working where I sometimes do some strokes with the ruling pen, and some others are done with the flat brush, and the mix is very powerful, I believe. So I went on to create this sort of style, and I will show you a few pieces. I think I need to speed up because I have a lot to show you, and it's very late. If in any case I'm running out of time, please let me know, Fan or Barry. I don't want to exceed the time too much. I will speed up the process. Okay, these are a few pieces that I did using this combined tool technique. This says also these compositions are very wild, not follow any kind of rule. I go just writing as I go. And this says epigon, actually. Epigon, which is, yeah, you know the meaning of the word epigon. These are actually two pieces that I did for the alphabet article that Carl did put together for me. And I think this one also, I'm not sure if this one also got featured in the Speedball textbook, the 25th year, which I was very lucky to have a few words picked to be featured there. So these two pieces I did for the article for the Alphabet magazine. This is another piece of the blend of ruling pen and yet another one. This is a mélange, which is another synonym of blend, which is what I was trying to do, actually, to make different tools blend in an organic way, to make it somehow try to make it work as a fluent thing. You know, it's not easy to mix such different tools and make it look organic and natural. But I put a lot of effort in it. This is a card that I wrote for my friend Alice that commissioned me to do the pieces for her. I did this one for Carl also. I was very thankful. I did an auction to try to collect some money because the father of my wife, unfortunately, in the middle of 2020 passed away, and we needed to try to raise some money for sending to the family. My wife is actually from the Philippines, and because the pandemic started right there, she could actually not travel to attend the funeral of her father, which was a very hard thing. And I decided to make an auction with some of my pieces, original pieces, and actually Carl Rolls ended up getting one of them, and it ended up being the cover of the article in the Alphabet magazine. So you call destiny so crazy. You never know what is. When you do a piece of work, you never know what is going to end up. So I'm very grateful for Carl, because he also, same as Barry, had a lot of patience with me when we were trying to put this together. And also for this presentation, Barry had to put up a lot with me, you know, because I'm very busy and it's difficult sometimes to be in contact with me. So this is something that I wrote in the place where I did my Mixtitious Expo. I did this freehand. I don't have no guidance or nothing. I just they give me the space, and I went on to write. This is a little bit of the double stroke thing that I do, and that I will talk about a little bit later. I don't want to take so much time. This is another piece that I did for the Mixtitious Expo. I think I have actually this is same like the red piece that you see before. This is a song short of Newland, and I go doing an outline with the ruling pen, which I think you can see here. I don't know if I have the video. Let me see. Oh yeah, I think you can see this, if I can play this. This is, I record a little bit of the process when I was doing this canvas. Okay, that was it. Sorry for the music. That is the kind of stuff that I listen to when I'm working. So this is actually a picture of the place where I did the expo, and these are a few of the pieces that I have there because I put a lot of work in this thing. Normally, I will work in grayscale, so really not colorful stuff. So this piece here, it was not really right in place, but actually the people from the place put most of the setup, so they decided to put it like this. I said, okay. And this is another canvas that I was, it was probably in the other part of the place, of the shop. It's also a gallery. This is another thing that I've been working on in the last 2-3 years, which is some sort of black letter that I do also with the flat brush, and it's kind of not aligned like, you know, black letter, for example, textura or something is really straight and really rigid. So I thought, can I actually get these shapes and try to make them dance a little bit? So I pushed myself to do that, and I ended up coming up with something like this. I did quite a few pieces on this style, and actually the cover of the Alphabet magazine, the piece that Carl Rohrs got is something like this. This one went from my friend Adam Theo's one in Berlin. This is actually in the Scriptorium Berlin now, in the wall of the Scriptorium, which I'm very thankful for. This is another thing that I did for Collard, for the Winsor & Newton seller in Poland. They hired me to do live for them, and I did this piece as a demo also in a live video. And I kind of like it because I broke the word inspirations in 3 lines and make it work as a very condensed composition. And I think it's interesting. And also I like the rhythm of the letters, which are aligned, but they still have that dance to it. This is another piece that I did for the Letterheads event that it was done online in 2020. Obviously, that's why it says the Letterheads lockdown, because yeah, it was the start of the pandemic, and we could not go anywhere. So they created the event online, and I actually did this whole piece live on the event. So I did not use any guides or nothing, which was really challenging, especially not this much for this composition, because I had done a lot of them previously. So I kind of had it more or less control. But when I went on to do this pointed brush letterheads title, and yeah, it was challenging because I have no chance to mess up. And they actually auctioned this piece later, and I was fortunate that a calligrapher from Germany bought this. And this title, I did it for the same event, and it's also a blend of this sort of slanting. I call this a slanting black letter. I don't know, it's a weird name, but yeah, it's not the typical straight, rigid black letter, but it's still based on those kind of shapes. And I combine it with the letterheads. I wrote that with a pointed brush, and it's wash. More pieces of that thing. I want to speed up a little bit. This actually, you're gonna see that this I wrote this with a flat brush, but I ended up using this as a design for an embossing piece that I did, and I sold to a friend of mine, and you will see it in a minute. This is actually a letterpress print that we created also with the same style, a bit more messy. I did in the beginning of all the pandemic also, and I decided to call this confined alphabets. I'm going to show you a few pictures of this bit. I actually have a few of these still available in my shop, and there's not many left, but there are still a few of them if you are interested to get one. Yeah, you can see the whole thing here, the pieces. That was in the print, still in the machine. The people from No Kiss Print from Aachen in Germany did this for me. They're friends of mine, and they do great letterpress work, and they also do great calligraphy of the process when they are doing it. You can see the textures. I'm just an added for the textures. This is unbelievable. The letterpress is so amazing. And this is the piece that I was talking about. I used the flat brush that I wrote there to actually do these letters. I traced them with the pencil, and I ended up cutting up the stencil that I used for this the embossing. This was not my first. I had done quite a few, but this was one of the first successful embossing pieces that I could be proud of. Still not as sharp as I managed to do in the later pieces, but I was very happy with this one. Yeah, you have more detail of this, and sometimes I add a bit of gold leaf to give it a little bit of light. This is another piece of embossing, the embossing that I do. I've been working on this technique for a while, and yeah, I'm very happy with this. I somehow managed to learn this by myself, more or less. And I developed a method of working that I feel it works very well. And I told in a workshop that I did about this subject that it kind of allow you to get really clean lines, which is not always the easiest thing to do when you are doing hand embossing. But also the kind of paper you use obviously is a great factor. Another thing in the different paper, this is Canson paper, which is more difficult to emboss, and also is a red color, which is opaque, and it's more difficult to work in darker papers because you have to use a different technique. You cannot use a light table, which I do use for my regular embossing in white paper, and I can see through it. This is probably one of the first pieces of embossing that I did, which is very rough now. But I wanted to add this because I used different papers in this piece from different parts of the world. I got this Chinese paper in Milan, and I got this very beautiful amate paper from Mexico. When I was in Mexico, somebody gave this beautiful paper to me, and I was so amazed. And they told me about the story of how they flattened the paper by hand and stone, and it was quite amazing. So the fibers are really strong. So I kind of rip this part of the paper and I stick it there, and I combine it with the embossing. And then I did some calligraphy, and then stick the rice paper on top and did a second line of Calligrapher on top of it. So it was quite, I think I sold this piece also for an auction that it was done in Australia when the wildfires went crazy, and they were raising money for that catastrophe. And I sent this piece, and I was lucky to get it sold to an Australian customer. So I'm very thankful for that. This is another piece of combining of ruling pen and embossing. This one I went on to put gesso in the paper, and this is Garza paper, the Spanish paper I mentioned before. And I didn't know what I was getting myself into, because when you want to emboss a paper that have gesso on, it's really difficult because the paper becomes very hard, and also the gesso kind of it made it all difficult. But I somehow put a lot of pressure in it, and I managed to do something really really deep, if you will say that, in terms of the depth of the embossing. This is a same technique. I did quite a few pieces combining these both techniques, the embossing and the ruling pen. And I'm gonna move, and this is a little detail of it. This is the Spanish paper that I mentioned. The texture is so amazing. This is very similar to arches, if you pronounce that, but this one had something special with it, especially when you work with this sort of tools. you could control the line so well in this paper because the grain, it was really rough, and it kind of slowed down the writing, and you have much more control, even though you still want to write with this sort of a gestural style. But yeah, the paper helped a lot, and also it was fantastic for the embossing. If you could see here, sometimes taking pictures of embossing is not the easiest thing. You need to work with the light because it's not so easy. This is the original piece that I did for my friend Alice in Canada, and once again I combined the ruling pen and the embossing. I think I have, yeah, this is some detail of this piece. I had some gold leaf also, and she wanted something that had to do with nature, so I went on with this this quote that involves both of the things that we love, which were words and nature. This piece on embossing that I did in the last Christmas, I did two of them. One I combined with pointed pen, and the other one I did with this golden capitals, small capitals. This one I'm very happy with because it came out really sharp also. When you work with monoline in embossing, it's really a good look because they have pretty much straight lines and long lines, and they are very aesthetic, if you will say that, when you emboss them. This is another piece that I did to thank my students in the embossing class, and again I went to combine the ruling pen and the embossing. I did this sort of black letter similar to what we've seen before that I do with the flat brush, and I also like to combine it always with the ruling pen. So I normally write the word first, and then I do the embossing, so the calligraphy can overlap the embossing, and it looks pretty good, or at least I like it. This is another print that we did from the Collective Calligraphy Masters. This is my letter that I added to. We were 26 people working in this print, and we were very lucky to have Julian Waters send this beautiful letter K to this project. So I'm very much honored to be in the same page of with Julian Waters, whom I admire greatly. This is some different stuff. This is some commercial work that I've been doing in the last years for some of these brands. I did this in the Christmas of 2020, these few pieces that I did for Louis Vuitton, and I'm lately doing a lot of work of engraving for other brands like Dior, etc. So I did not actually add any engraving pictures, but you might have seen that in my social media if you actually follow me there or something. Seems like I left another black. Okay, let's gonna move to this really quick. This is the name of my studio, as I mentioned before, the Scribe House. I did this a while ago when I was in the other place, and I moved in this new studio now. I've been here for a while, and I'm still trying to put it together, but I'm gonna show you a few things. This is one of the walls of my studio. I did this piece with this sort of double stroke black letter that I've been trying to develop in the last 2-3 years. And I think I have a video of this piece that I can show you. Let me go on. This is another wall of my studio that I did with the same style. I work with the flat brush, and I kind of follow this. And both of these pieces, I had them in paper before, and I went on to make them in the walls of the studio. You see, this is actually the original calligraphy of the piece, and this is the inverted, the negative. And I went on to try to replicate this piece on the wall of the studio in a much bigger scale, of course. This was already quite big. I did this as a demo for the last time that I taught this workshop, which was for the Ars Roma Association, Calligraphy Association. They are from Rome. And we were lucky to have this workshop running for 4 weeks, which gave me a lot of time to get deep into the subject, because the first time that I tried to do this workshop, it was not what I expected, because I did it was probably first or second time that I did an online workshop, and I was still trying to learn how to do that. And I did a workshop that was only 4 hours, and it was way too short to actually get deep into the subject. So I was kind of rushing myself, and I was not very happy with. But after that, the Italian association gave me a longer workshop, and I was able to work longer with it, and I developed a much better class, and I think the students were very happy with it. So this is the paper, the piece on paper. And this is the title. I have an old one, but I did this one not long ago for the new workshops that I hopefully gonna do in this subject. And I feel like there's the video here. No, this is another 2 pieces that I did. I designed this for a customer in New York that actually have this K tattoo in his neck. And this is for another letterpress print that we are planning to put out soon. I'm gonna move on. And this is actually the original calligraphy. Not this exact same of this, but one of the trials that I did for designing that other title for the workshop. So I did this with a 3mm blouse nib. This is my studio when I was still working on it, painting the walls and stuff. This is the piece that you've seen there, and I think I have the video of this piece. And this is another piece that I did in the front of the shop. When in the entry, when you enter, the first thing that you see is this kind of lettering on top of the. This is my room where I tattoo actually. Yeah, this is the video. You can see. I hope if I'm running out of time, please let me know. But let's play this so you can see the process of the Temet Knox piece. Okay. All right. Just to finish, if I have the time, Barry told me if I could add some of the tattoos that I actually do in my studio here. So I went on to have a few pictures, and this is something I did a while ago, but something that I try to do, which is to take the textures of calligraphy to tattoo, and actually to be able to do this in the skin of the people, which is took me quite a while to be able to replicate such textures, but now I'm very comfortable with it, and I try to. People come to me for this sort of work because it's not the usual that you will see in tattoo, if you will say that. I'm gonna show you a few pictures really quick, and we will finish with this. Yeah, this is something I did. Oh, sorry. I did a while ago for a newborn, and this is also, I do this sort of script very often for tattoo, really thin stuff. This is some italics that I did a while ago also. This is a bigger piece that I did for a whole forearm. This I did in somebody's hand. Yeah, people is tattooing their hands very often now. So I don't have the other picture, but it was actually wife and husband, and it was his beauty and her beast. So I only have I lost a lot of my tattoos in the hard drive that I had, but I managed to keep this one in his hand. Sometimes I actually, if the people trust me enough, I actually do draw the letters directly in the skin of people instead of using the stencils and stuff. And then I go on to tattoo it. And sometimes thankfully the outcome of the tattoo is better than the drawing itself. And this is a piece that I did a while ago. This is actually healed already. This shading is fresh, but this is healed. So you can see the texture and the bevel that I try to put in the letters in the tattoos that I do. Sometimes people go for really bigger stuff. So I enjoy this very much to do this large piece, but I think a lot more than him because he had to put up with me for a few hours for this, but the outcome is I'm very happy with. Yeah, there's another picture of the same tattoo. This I did actually not so long ago, and if you can see it here in a closer picture, it tried to keep also the textures of the brass that I wrote the original word with, and the size of it is quite big. If you can see here, you can see it in the body of him, and yeah, I was quite happy with the textures. There is actually the customer. I wrote this with a pen, with a brass pen. Didn't have that much texture, but the customer really asked me for it, so I went on and added in the tattoo. Yeah, some more of it, and this is a pointed pen, thin written, and you can see I kept the real color of this tattoo, so you could see how red get the skin of people when they get tattoo. It's a bit hard for the skin to be written on with a needle. Oh, this is a few of the last walls that I did in the last years, and you can see that the stuff that I do in the street, I don't paint that much as before, but when I have the chance, I still do some things outside in the street, and it's very much changed completely to be much more influenced by my calligraphy. This, I will pass it, you see, this is another thing that is very calligraphic, more of the same, more colorful. This I did a while ago, but yes, it's also keeping calligraphic shapes. This is actually a wall that I did in an Italian bank in 2016. They invite us to 11 artists to paint a different floor, each of us, and I did a large piece here. In here, we didn't have much space because the lips were here, and people were having a lot of trouble because a lot of people project their designs on the wall to paint it. As you see in the video before, I projected, but I actually never do that. I did that in the Temec Noxe piece to speed up the process. But because I was actually painting graffiti for so long, to paint in a large scale is not such a big problem for me. So I'm very familiar with the bigger letters. So I just draw it with a pencil, and then I go on and paint it with the brush. Yeah, more of the same. And this is actually a piece that I did in the street in Milan when I was hired by that bank to paint that commission. And I always, when I go to places, I try to link up with other graffiti artists or other calligraphers and try to see if they can take me out so we can paint something in the street. So I did this piece after we did the commission piece for the bank, for the Italian bank. And yeah, this is another design that I did, combining calligraphy and graffiti. And I think this is just about it. So thank you very much if you made it to the end with me. I know I went far too long, but yeah, this is something that I did with the ESA pen to thank my students and to thank all of you for listening to me. And I hope you enjoyed this presentation.
Well, thank you, Victor.
That was quite a lot too much. I'm sorry if I put too much stuff there.
Absolutely inspiring. And I think we all now want to get to our drawing boards and try out all these techniques, for which I think we need several lifetimes.
I'm sorry, I went on to put way too much stuff there. I tried to cut myself, but I couldn't just help myself.
No, not at all, not at all. And there were a number of really complimentary notices in the chat room. So a few questions, which I will present to you, if I can find them. Where did they go? Okay. Let's see now. Yes, Mei Chung is asking, what kind of material do you use to cut your stencils for embossing?
An X-Acto knife.
Yeah.
I just use the regular thing. I don't, some people cut their stencils for the embossing with these small plotters and stuff, because it's very tiring to cut it by hand. But I like to cut it with the X-Acto knife, because you can control the shape of the letters, but it takes time. And yeah.
Well, what kind of stock do you use? I found I've had different results as a result of different kinds of cardstock.
You mean when you're cutting your stencils?
Yeah, yeah.
I guess depends of the paper that you use to cut the stencil, actually. You need to find a really good paper, something that is not extremely thick, but also that it has enough strength to give you the right depth. I use actually Canson watercolor paper to cut my stencils. It's a little bit difficult to cut because it's hard paper, but yeah, I got used to do it with that one, and the results are good. I'm happy with it, so I stuck with it.
Okay, and Mary Hawkins is asking, when you prep your work for letterpress, do you vectorize it first and go through drawing in all the texture? Or are they able to work from a photo of your work?
When they mean letterpress, I guess they are talking about the print that I saw. I do not actually vectorize that. I scan it in a really high resolution, and then I send it to the printers. So if they have the very good quality file, they can print very sharp stuff.
And can you tell us something about the tattoo gun? I think that's something a lot of folks are not familiar with.
The tattoo, sorry, what can you repeat that?
Tattoo gun, there's a question here. Is that a broad edge or pointed tattoo gun? And then Theos in Berlin is tattooing with a multi-needles broad gun in one stroke.
Actually, when you tattoo, you have a machine, and the tips are the different tips which have groups of needles. So you can have different groups of needles. You can have groups of needles which are flat and they are bigger, which you use for doing shading and filling. And then you have a very sharp groups of needles that are rounded together for lines. So there are many different tips of groups of needles to tattoo with. Yeah, I use the same stuff that Theo's done. I learned a lot from him. He helped me a lot in the beginning when I started tattooing.
So I have a question for you about tattooing. when somebody comes to you, let's say they want it on their shoulder or their forearm or whatever, do you take any measurements first?
Yes, totally.
Okay. Yeah.
I had to measure their bodies. I had to advise them what size is best for them. Sometimes people want to get tattoos in the places that they are not really going well with the shape of or their direction of their muscles. So you have to try to convince people because sometimes they are a bit stubborn. But yeah, you really have to advise the client, and you have to measure the body. You have to prepare the sketches and the designs exactly for that. Yeah, it's quite a process.
Okay. And Wilson Allen is asking, what qualities do you look for in a good brush? Does this differ for large and small work?
Well, depending what I'm gonna write, because some of the letters that I do, I will, for example, the black letter that I do with the flat brush, I enjoy using harder brushes, more stiff. And some other letters I use the Manette Galaxy, which is quite softer, and the bristles are very much shorter. For the italic that I write that you've seen in the presentation, I use the Galaxy, and for the other stuff like black letter, I normally use Winsor & Newton, which is longer and a bit more stiff.
Great.
I use, Rafael Cairel also very often also.
Well, that's all the questions that are in the chat, but if anybody has one off the top of their head, feel free to unmute yourself and ask Victor if he still has the energy after all of this.
if you still survived to this point. All right. Okay, so I guess people is already on their way out. So I want to thank you all very much for putting up with me. I went a little bit longer than I was expected.
Oh,
but
Victor, I'm sorry, one last thing.
Yeah, sure, definitely.
I can't ignore our wonderful board member, Cynthia Danzig, who has a question if you can simply explain the embossing process.
Sorry?
Can you explain the embossing process? Not everybody's familiar with it.
Yeah, the embossing process is not that difficult, but I kind of developed my own way to do it because, as I said, I kind of taught myself to do this. I didn't learn from, I don't know how other people do it. It's not that difficult. You write the calligraphy. Normally, when I teach the class, I advise people to work with monoline because when you go to cut your stencil, the monoline is easier to cut than if you get into more complicated stuff. But basically, you do a design of calligraphy. You can trace it if you want to clean the lines. Then you go on to cut it on thick paper to create a stencil. And then you use another piece of paper on top of it. And with a, I don't even know how you call that thing, with a round puncher, I think, you go softly punching in the paper in the hole of that you created in the stencil.
Stylus.
So yeah, sorry?
Stylus.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
All right, thank you. I always, I don't know the names of everything because I'm not a native English speaker, but thank you very much, Lynette. So that's basically it. It's not very difficult, but sometimes I actually taught a few workshops about this subject and they were very successful. People keep asking me when I'm going to come back with another one. So I probably will do another workshop online in a short period of time if I manage to do it, because I'm onto so many things right now.
And speaking of workshops, I'm thrilled to inform everybody that Victor will be teaching his double stroke fracture for the Society of Scribes at a date yet to be determined. Time seems to slip through our fingers. We had been hoping to do it around this time, but you know how that goes with time. But keep abreast of things on our website. And I suspect now will be probably sometime in the early fall.
Probably, yeah.
So
I will be very much happy to do that. I'm so glad that you wanted to invite me to teach for you. So is there anything else that we need to see? Any questions or something?
Anybody?
Yeah, I have another question.
Yes.
Hi. So whenever I vectorize my lettering, not that I'm good at this, the texture just doesn't go well. And you were saying that you individually draw in your textures when you're vectorizing work in Illustrator. Do you have any tips on that? Like,
well, the process of vectorizing rough edges or textures is really a slow one. If you yourself vectorize your calligraphy, you know that actually breaking the lines or the anchor points is quite a thing. It takes time. It's not nothing special in it. It's the process is the same, but I just take the time to. I actually scan my calligraphy in a very high resolution, so I can really zoom in the piece, and I can go carefully to add a lot of anchor points to try to replicate the texture. But it's nothing special about it, but just take the time to try to follow the original texture of the calligraphy. Thank you.
Do you teach classes on your embossing technique?
Yes, actually, I just mentioned that because I did a couple of classes, and both of them, they were very successful. I mean, people were, I mean, who don't like the embossing thing? It's very appealing, you know. I was very attracted by it, so that's why I wanted to learn. But yes, I do actually teach this, and I'm probably going to organize a workshop, an online workshop on this subject in the near future. So normally I have an online shop, which is the kams.es, and then I publish my workshops there. But yeah, probably I will. Thank you.
So everybody, the recording of today's lecture will soon be posted on the Society of Scribes YouTube channel. So you can go back and relive this glorious presentation to your heart's content.
Thank you very much, Barry. It was such a pleasure to have this platform and that you invite me here to do this presentation. It was an honor for me.
Well, we were thrilled to have you. It was really terrific. And we're just very grateful to you for giving us some of your time.
Thank you. I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
So if there's nothing else, I guess we all shall now say adios.
Adiós. Adiós. Hasta la vista. Thank you all very much.
Hasta luego.
Bye-bye.
Muchas
Take
gracias,
care.
amigo.
Bye-bye. Bye, everybody.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.